Fear, anxiety. These two forces haunt the human experience, tugging at us from the shadows of our mind. But what if these shadows are not just reactions to the outside world? What if the source of our fear, our anxiety, lies deep within us, buried in places we cannot see? This is the provocative idea put forth by Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis. According to Freud, fear and anxiety are more than just passing emotions. They are symptoms. They arise from the conflict, tension, and unresolved forces locked inside our unconscious mind. Let's start with the ID, the primal core of our desires, unfiltered, raw, and driven by impulses. This part of us cares nothing for rules or morals. It seeks only to satisfy urges, be they for pleasure, power, or even destruction. But if our ID were the only voice we listened to, society, relationships, even civilization itself would crumble, and so enters the superego, the stern judge, our internalized voice of morality, the gatekeeper of social rules and ethics. Between these two, the ego, our conscious self, stands as mediator. It must navigate the dangerous waters between the wild desires of the ID and the unforgiving standards of the superego. And here is where anxiety is born. Imagine this. The ID pushes us to satisfy our forbidden desires, but the superego slams on the brakes, condemning us with guilt and shame. The ego, caught in the crossfire, struggles to maintain control. When this conflict is too intense, too overwhelming for the ego to manage, anxiety rises to the surface. Freud called this neurotic anxiety, the tension of an internal battle we may not even be aware of, yet feel deeply. But it's not just the battle between desire and morality. Our deepest fears may be tied to something much older, to our earliest relationships. Freud theorized that as children we grapple with the intense, often confusing emotions towards our parents. For a boy, these feelings are encapsulated in the Oedipus complex, a deep, unconscious rivalry with the father for the love of the mother. But with that rivalry comes fear, the fear of retaliation. Freud called it castration anxiety, a primal terror rooted in the fear that one's father will punish them for these unconscious desires. And though these feelings belong to childhood, their echoes often remain. They manifest in subtle, unrecognizable forms, shaping adult fears and anxieties. Of course, not all anxiety comes from within. Freud acknowledged the power of realistic anxiety, the very real threats that the world presents us. The dangers of war, loss, failure, these create fear, but they do so in a way that is external and tangible. However, Freud believed these external fears are often magnified by internal conflicts. When life presents a danger, it may resonate with deeper unconscious fears, intensifying our anxiety. And then there is the death instinct. Freud's later work introduced a concept that was both unsettling and profound, that deep inside each of us, alongside the will to live, there is a drive toward destruction. The death instinct, or Thanatos, is the urge for self-sabotage, the impulse to return to a state of nothingness. It battles against the life instinct, or eros, creating yet another layer of internal conflict. This tension between life and death, creation and destruction, adds to the complex web of fears that lurk beneath the surface. But Freud's insights offer us more than just a diagnosis of our anxieties. They offer us a path, a way to confront these deep-rooted fears. Through analysis, he believed, we could bring the unconscious to light, to recognize these hidden forces, and by doing so, we could find freedom from the anxiety they produce. Pause. Fear and anxiety, Freud suggests, are not to be simply avoided or suppressed. They are signals pointing us to unresolved conflicts within ourselves. By listening to these signals, by turning inward and unraveling the layers of our psyche, we gain the opportunity to understand the true source of our fears. In the end, Freud reminds us that fear and anxiety are not just reactions to the outside world. They are, perhaps more profoundly, reflections of the struggles within us. They are the byproduct of desires we cannot fully accept, traumas we have not yet healed, and conflicts we have not resolved. To understand ourselves, we must be willing to delve into these depths. into the unconscious realm where the ID, ego, and superego constantly wrestle for control. Only by facing what lies beneath can we begin to alleviate the anxiety that lives above. Pause. And in this exploration, we might just discover that the key to taming fear is understanding the fear within. And if you found this video insightful, don't forget to like and share.